Okay, we're ready.
There we go. All right, thank you, everybody, for joining in that are here with us. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the special session of the mayor and council of the city of Bisbee, county of Cochise, state of Arizona. It's being held on Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 at 6:03 p.m. by Zoom. I have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Lewis Pollock.
Here.
Councilmember Joni Giacomino is going to be a little late, but she'll be here. Councilmember Frank Davis.
Here.
Mayor Ken Budge.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Johns.
Here.
Councilmember Anna Klein. She's also going to be joining us, just not here yet, I don't think. City staff, Stephen Puckins, city manager. Ashley Coronado, city clerk. Carrie Bagley, finance director. Joelle Landers, personnel director. Jesus Haro, public works director. Albert Chavez, police chief. Jim Richardson, acting fire chief. Jason Makoviak, library manager. Joe Estes, city attorney.
All right, thank you, everybody. Dispense with all the other, since this is a special session, we'll go immediately to agenda item number 1. This is review suggestions for expenditures of the American Rescue Plan funds. So this first year's amount is $877,532.11. Let everybody know this will come in same amount again next year, but this is a 5-year process. We have up to 5 years to spend both of these awards. So this will be our first pick at what we would like to direct staff to proceed with some of these funds. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, who has prepared some outlines for us. And since it is a special session, but I'd like to keep it very loose. If you have questions, just break in and ask him, let him present. And then as things go along, we'll brainstorm and so on. I think this would be a good kind of like a work session, but it is a special session. So I'd like everybody to just, if that's okay with you, Steve, to just ask questions as they come up, because sometimes I forget about them later. So anyway.
Thank you, everybody, and good evening. Yeah, this is not horribly different than having a budget meeting, I don't think. So we've always encouraged questions as they come for those meetings, and certainly will now. As the mayor mentioned, we've received our first allocation of 2 of the American Rescue Plan Act funding, and on or about the first week of July next year, we'll receive the second allocation of an identical amount. Ms. Bagley and I have been trying as hard as we can to collect as much information we can on the rules of how this money can and cannot be spent. You know, for instance, it's an eligible expenditure for an outdoor item, but it's not an eligible expenditure to put the money in a pension fund. Every week we get another update with more of those little tidbits of information. And as I had indicated to you on the council action form, these items on the list that staff has provided to you are basically staff, their staff recommendations based on what they know the needs are in various areas of the city. And it is by no means a definitive list. And as I had mentioned to you at the last council meeting and the lead up to this meeting, that suggestions from the mayor and council are welcomed as well. The list that has been provided to you, I'm going to highlight it. I'm not going to go into all the gory details unless you need clarification on anything. But we believe that all of these items are eligible under some manner. And but it is our intention as we go through here, and I think the strategy, if you will, going forward is to discuss these things tonight that are on the list and anything that you may want to add to the list. And then we will go back and take your direction and then move forward with those things that we wish to go forward with, and eliminate anything that you may not wish to go forward with. But each and every item will be double checked before the money is spent. We will check it again a second time for eligibility, and we'll have the city attorney concur with that before we move forward. And then it will come back to you for an actual vote on any item that's expended. So some of these are kind of minor in scope, some of them are quite major in scope. But to be fair, we think that everything ought to be approved by the mayor and council prior to the actual expenditure of the funds. So that's the strategy. Unless there's any objection, that's the strategy we will follow moving forward. And then the only thing that'll be left is determining which of these items and or other items you may or may not wish to move forward with. Now, the list that staff has provided you amounts to a little bit more than half of the total allocation. The good news is that we still have almost that same amount coming next year that hasn't been thought on how to spend yet. So we've got some latitude moving forward. So we're
Sorry.
it's okay. We're really going to take this kind of slow because quite frankly, if we were to do everything that's on the list that was provided to you by staff, it would take more than a year to do it anyhow. So we're not looking to rush right out and start spending this money. It's going to come as we are able to deal with it. So that's where we're at on this thing. And then briefly going through a couple of things, and one thing in particular that we've got on the list of guidelines is community assistance. Thinking about appropriate community assistance, at least for me, there are a lot of things out there, and I think that we should probably commit some of this funding to providing community assistance. As you know, item 2 on your agenda tonight is a request for assistance from the Copper Queen Hospital Community Foundation, which we'll discuss in greater detail when we get to item 2. But I've also been observing, and I think you have been too, that there are pockets of community assistance out there, most of which are not on a large scale, where if we had money like this 6 months ago when we had the depths of the pandemic, we probably could have lent more assistance to some of the community organizations who need it. So in the community assistance category, I have committed tentatively about $50,000 solely for the purpose of emergency assistance to nonprofit organizations. Now we probably shouldn't, it's probably not good policy just to give money out to anybody, but I think we've got a lot of nonprofits in town who do excellent work in community assistance, and we should probably dedicate some of this money so that we can provide assistance to them as they need it. So once again, it's a broad category, but if someone comes to the city requesting community assistance of $1,000 for X, we can bring that to you and you can make the call whether or not it needs to be done or not. So that explains what emergency assistance means. Broadband is another category that's specifically mentioned as far as the rescue plan is concerned. In a conversation I just had a couple of hours ago with Jason at the library, we were going to commit $13,000 to Wi-Fi upgrades at the library. He has now obtained another funding source to do exactly the same thing. So that $13,000 is no longer necessary for what his needs are at the library. However, I think we might want to at least let it sit there for the moment, because I think in the category of broadband, I know what my broadband needs are at my house, but I probably can't think of everything that in the broadband category that we may need for the purpose of providing service in that area to the community. So at this point, we're recommending to leave that there. What probably, if we expand broadband services somewhere else in town, we'll at least have earmarked some money for that. And the other area is public access computers. As you know, we used to have one at City Hall, but now we don't have a City Hall. But
Steve?
we're hopeful. Yes.
Yeah, so my thought process on this also was part of the broadband reach is we have so many areas, especially school children that don't have broadband, and we could do hotspots, do things that help community outreach that way. I know the library has some, maybe we could expand that and use this money. It wouldn't be in forever because the money runs out, but we could help that area also. So I think it'd be wise to leave it there, not necessarily, but just for that reason to try to help people that need the broadband to teach their kids or to do something else or whatever that way. And so that's my thought process.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, and I'm sure that as you know, the word gets out in the community, maybe there's some folks out in the community that can help us identify some specific broadband issues that we can address. So, but that's an area that with the Rescue Plan Act was a real big item for the administration. And so we want to continue to try and assist broadband on expansion throughout the Bisbee area. So water and sewer, I'm recommending $100,000 be put aside for dealing with old sewer lines. I don't think I have to spend a lot of time mentioning to you all some of the struggles that we've been having over the last year or two dealing with old sewer lines. And as we know, the sewer fund has a finite amount of money in it. Water and sewer, again, was another strongly identified recommendation from the American Rescue Plan. And I think that we can spend $100,000 fixing sewer lines pretty quickly. And in a year from now, we may want to consider, putting more in there for sewer lines. In fact, I just had an extended phone call before I left the office this afternoon with a lady in Warren who described for me a somewhat spider-like array of sewer lines on her block that reminds me a lot of what we encounter routinely in Old Bisbee. So they're out there, they're all old. This is an identified need that we need to take care of. And so we're recommending 100,000. Also had stuck in their grant match for the fire suppression system. Unfortunately, we don't know any numbers yet on the fire suppression system, but a year from now we may. So I want to leave it on the list. I just can't identify a figure yet at this point. Tourism. Tourism was another one that was specifically outlined in the American Rescue Plan for assistance. And so talking with everybody that we have in the neighborhood that is involved in any way with tourism, we know that we're in the process of hiring a Queen Mine Tour manager, or excuse me, a visitor center manager. Sorry, Doug. And that position formerly was in a broom closet converted into a office. Doug is in the process of making those improvements now, so that we have a much nicer facility for that person to work out of when they have been hired. And Doug provided me with the figure of $7,500. The card racks are gone. They left. They're somewhere else now. We need to replace them. We're estimating up to $5,000. Remodeling the tourist restrooms. Now, this is kind of a rough number at $20,000. We know that there are some ADA upgrades that need to be made at the Queen Mine Tour restrooms, as well as Grassy Park and Gore Park. So even though the recommendation here was made by our tourism people, I'm going to rely on Public Works to get to the nitty gritty of what improvements can be done and when they need to be done. So, but as you know, restrooms get dated very quickly, especially if they're public, and we'll need to do some work on all three. And if there's anything I've forgotten along the way. And then we also may want to, we just put in the advertising budget for Arizona Office of Tourism last week. The amount of that expenditure is about, so far about $32,000. As you know, that money is leveraged for another $32,000, so that through AOT, if they approve all of our requests, that's $64,000 worth of advertising. Coming out of COVID, and knowing that a lot of our tourism-based business in Bisbee has been damaged to some degree by the impacts of the pandemic, we should probably be putting as much advertising out there as we possibly can. Most of what we've done so far this year with the city budget has been print, although we have put some money in the AOT. Doesn't have as many opportunities for social media advertising, but we can do that ourselves. And I heard you, Mayor, when you mentioned last week that we may want to look more at social media and electronic advertising. And those are opportunities we're going to be looking for through the year, and hopefully this $25,000 will help. The next item was mentioned supplementing the cost of COVID-19 impact on absences and overtime, basically sickness, okay, for those who are impacted. Through the magic of accounting and the good math skills of our finance director, I was able to get a number that approximates our COVID-19 losses for the year 2020. And that figure is $287,000. Okay, that wasn't previously on your list, but basically what the guidelines have told us is that we can calculate an amount of the city's losses due to illnesses and overtime as a function of the pandemic, and we can basically backfill the general fund based on that. And we did those calculations totally based on our public safety forces and the impact it had on them. So that actually adds to what I already told you about how much money's on this list. Public safety, the radio project, we're still short. The radio project is not done. We're still looking at the need for 15 portable radios. They're $1,200 a piece, so you can see the number there. There is a definite need for replacing the device on Tank Hill that enables us to control the simulcast from the repeater up there to the public safety forces. That's that second item, that APX 7500 consolette. Our system planner, Ev Whitty, tells me that the maximum cost for that device would be $9,000. And that's something that we can install on Tank Hill ourselves. Emergency generators. I guess I didn't realize until I came to work here for the third time that we don't have emergency generators at either fire station, and we never had one at City Hall. I haven't affixed a figure to that yet, and it's probably an expenditure for later rather than sooner. But the reality is that the technology for backup power devices has advanced quite a bit since the one you see at the police station and the one you see down at the wastewater plant. And we're hoping to be able to have a smaller package for less money. But we're not ready to recommend anything yet, but we want to have that on the list because I think that's a definite public safety issue. Defibrillator. I know you've been hearing about defibrillators. We've actually got a FEMA grant that we applied for a defib earlier this year. I think that we probably would, well, let's put it this way. We should have 2 new defibrillators rather than 1, based on a condition that I see in the defibrillators that we have on our frontline squads. So I'm recommending that at about $40,000, we replace one of the defibrillators. And then we'll look at it again next year. If we succeed on the FEMA grant, we get the other one. If we don't, we can look at that again after the FEMA grants are out sometime this fall or around the first of the year. So, and then as you know, we've also applied for a ladder truck through FEMA. The city match that's in the general fund in your budget this year is $50,000. We have a donor who is has committed to pay half of the grant match. The other half of the grant match would be $25,000. That's eligible out of this list. Okay. And
We'll
then,
know that in a couple of months, right? So,
FEMA. Jimmy, you've worked on that for a lot of years. I think we're looking more October, November.
Yeah, I believe it's probably November before we start hearing anything.
okay, I was hoping. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'd all like it sooner rather than later.
Well, at least to know so we can plan. Anyway, all right.
Yeah, well, and you know, I think you know the procedure. They come out every week with a list of winners, and then the next week they come out with another list of winners, and we go nuts until we get to the end or until we become a winner every Friday morning when the list comes out. So it's kind of nerve-wracking, but so anyway, that's a good timetable to anticipate.
Just letting everybody know. Thanks.
Okay. Park improvements, you have a budget item for replacing the deck at the pool. That's an eligible expense for this fund. Garcia Tin Town Park is, well, let's just say not something I would take my friends to. And I think there should be some improvements made over there. I put a figure in there of $25,000, but I think before we proceed with anything in that park, I think we need to meet with the neighbors because a lot of the damaged and used up equipment in that park is in the form of play sets and that sort of thing. I think we need input from the neighborhood to before we proceed with spending any money, because I don't want to spend it on something that the neighborhood won't use. So anyway, that's what that's there for. Saginaw Park, same situation. It could use some facelift and replace some of the damaged and old equipment. And again, I think the best approach there is to meet with the Saginaw neighbors to see how they would like that to look. And then there were 2 suggestions for Ramadas, both at Higgins Park and at the Lower Vista. And I'm not 100% sure they're $5,000 a piece, but I'm sure there's something out there. So there's $25,000 recommended there. On the airport, we have a local match in our budget for the runway ceiling project. I'm still not 90% or so sure that that's an eligible expenditure. But the match money is $33,000. It comes out of the airport fund, which of course ends up being transferred out of the general fund to the airport fund to pay for that. So that's on there. It sort of helps us with the general fund. Historic preservation. There's been, at least to me, I don't know about the rest of you, but we got almost all the way to the finish line with the Warren survey. It went all the way to Washington and it went to the keeper's office, and the keeper sent it back. And this was between jobs 1 and 2 for me. And when it came back, my understanding is that there wasn't much appetite to answer the additional questions that the keeper of the National Register wanted us to provide them. So it's just sitting there. I think we'll probably need to hire a consulting firm that does historic projects. We had one before. I guess I might recommend somebody else for a change, but the reality is that I think there's a lot of your neighbors in Ward 2 who would like to see that completed and to have Warren placed on the National Register. We've already spent $70,000 on getting listed on a historic register, and we are that close to the finish line. And so I think we'd like to finish. On my second day back to work in April, the director from the State Historic Preservation Office had sent me a message saying, when can we get this done? So I think there's also a lot of support from the state to get over the finish line with that project. And then lately, the mayor and I have been, and Jesus have been dealing with some issues that we have up at the Muheim. There are some maintenance issues that have been sort of left undone, and a couple of things that need to be done to preserve the integrity of that house. And I believe, based on what we're thinking we need to do, that we can invest $10,000 in the Muheim and fix the problems that have been brought to our attention. This might be the first $10,000 we've spent at the Muheim in a while. So I don't feel bad about spending money on something that's that integral part of our history. Art Commission have made an actual request, and Mayor, I need a drink of water, so you brought this one to me. I want to explain it.
Okay, so yeah, meeting with our Bisbee Arts Commission, the artists and we believe, and not believe, we know the musicians have taken quite a hit over this COVID situation. They weren't able to play. A lot of the art stuff went down. So one of the things the arts commissions are talking about is doing an art festival, which happens in many parts of the country. And they asked me about it, and I said, I'm a big support of that, because I think it would be a great event for us. It'd be a 3-day event. Our local artists would be able to put up something and sell. They would pay the musicians to play. It would be another major event that our actual, part of the city, the Arts Commission, would be putting on. They're not cheap, just like any large event. They're willing to throw in $10,000 of their funding and would be a fundraiser for them also. But the match to us would be, it's actually coming in around 15,000 instead of 10. That's what I got at first. And I wouldn't even mind setting a little aside also for other projects to support our artist community. I mean, we are an arts and cultural district, and I think that to help out our locals and people that are involved in that would be a good use of some of this set aside. And as requests come in for I could see an art project, something for the city, something, you know, it could be anything from sculpture to something else that would put us on the map. So I would, you know, I asked for the 10. I'm now going to ask for 15, but maybe even down the road, set a little more aside so that throughout the year, if requests come in that we deem that mayor and council would like to support, we'd have the funding there to do so, to support our you know, upcoming arts and artists and our musicians here in town. It's a big part of what makes us. So I would like a part of this to go there. So that was my throw in there.
Mhm.
That's all.
Okay, and I'm monitoring comments on Facebook while we're going through this, and I did get a suggestion that the men's restroom at the convention center could use some help. That's something we may want to consider down the line too.
Well, that's private. That's
Even though, well, that's private, but it's still eligible.
sure. I know, I understand.
So,
Okay.
but so anyway, just so you know. So anyway, I've got two more categories. Your list probably only has one. But I added another category based on a suggestion I got yesterday. So let's go to building improvements. These are the big ticket items for the most part, and you know, many of which are totally necessary. But as with all major building improvements, you know, doing one thing means we're going to have to do something else too. And so we have to keep that in mind, and probably these will be extended over a number of years and probably not easily done in the short term. So the first item is air conditioning for the library. This one comes directly out of the recommendations that you received at the last council meeting from the building study that was presented to council. I factored in 2 air conditioning units plus a $20,000 upgrade to the electrical system. Not sure whether 20,000 is going to be enough or not, but that's directly out of the study. All I know is the power we have to that building right now will not be sufficient to power those 2 air conditioning units. We also will require a structural analysis in order to determine whether we can put them up there or not. And if we can't, then we would, if we wish to proceed, we would have to make some modifications to the structure. As I'm sure all of you who were at the last council meeting will remember, I expressed some skepticism about the degree to which we know what that structure looks like inside. You know, the fact that the air conditioners are you know, it's not a luxury at the library, it's really needed. And I think too that quite frankly, it's a community center downtown. A lot of people rely on that for a place to go when it's hot, a place to use the computers, and a whole lot of other stuff. And so I feel that's a justified expenditure, but we need to take a hard look at the structure on the way to making that decision. So that's going to take some time. And I know that there are some non-invasive ways of examining the parts of the structure that concern me. And so we're going to look at that in conjunction with this because I think we all want to be confident in the structure as we add additional load to it. Also, both fire stations 81 and 82 are cooled by swamp cooler. Probably would benefit from switching over to air conditioning. Once again, those would be smaller units to cool smaller spaces, but still probably $100,000 for air conditioning units. And both of those structures, again, we would need to do some structural evaluation to make sure that the roof systems can handle the I didn't get I've got an overhead door at the Fire Station 82 on the list. I don't have a clue what it would cost to replace. That's something that we're just going to work on as we go along. And then the next item is the police evidence room remodel and roof repair. The evidence room has pretty much been neglected over the last 20 or 30 years. I think they were prompted to ask if something could be done when the termites entered the building. So before we get too much more damage in there, we need to do some fixing, and that's an eligible expense. Office equipment for planner. As you know, we're closing on the planner position, I think tomorrow. And we've got half a dozen candidates or so, a couple of which look fairly good. We don't have any place for the planner. We got no desk for the planner, no nothing. So I put that in there at figure of about $10,000. And then the last two items, the city hall demolition. We know that, and Jesus and I did have a chat today over at the building with a demo contractor. We're probably still a couple of weeks away from getting a revised estimate of demo cost. We also examined fairly thoroughly with the demo contractors that portion of the building, the front entryway, that we would like to try and save, and the underlying structure that would need to remain in order to accomplish that objective, which would preserve the what I consider the most important architectural feature of the building. And so in talking with the city attorney about it, we can still honor that bid with a slight modification for that slight change in the scope of work if it comes in at a reasonable amount. And so we'll be waiting for them to come back with that. And then the last item on building improvements, I was not aware of this. I just found out yesterday that the elevator at the mining museum is no longer functional. I have, I'm asking for somebody to give me an estimate both to repair and to replace. But I think that's a reasonable and justifiable expense. And then the last thing I've got is a suggestion from staff that we should probably acquire some COVID-19 rapid tests for not only use by our first responders, but for use for all of our employees. With the Delta variant rearing its ugly head at different places around the country, some of which people from Bisbee visit, or they visit us, it's not out of the question that we may see an uptick in infections again. Right now, I've been monitoring the Cochise County numbers for the last week or so. We still look pretty good, but like I say, our people travel to those areas and those folks travel here. So we probably, and this is a really minor expenditure, but I think it's a totally reasonable request. All right. I told you I wasn't going to go into any detail, and I did anyway. So anyway, Mayor, back to you.
Well, I have a couple of things that I would like to see on the list that come to me the last couple of days. If you just write them down, I don't really have a for sure number, but one of them was, depending on what we do at the library, I know the air conditioning is very important, but one of the things that was brought up to me, and I think is a real hazard to us liability wise, is we really need to get that railing fixed around the outside. And in order to allow people to use the railing, we now have electrical plugs out there so they can sit out there and use their computers, but yet we have the really low pipe railing, and we really need to start looking at somehow making that more user friendly for for our patrons that use the library. We have great outdoor weather a lot of the time, as long as the bugs aren't here, and I think that would be a good place also, besides having it air conditioned inside. So they did give us a figure on that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but if we can work that in maybe next year or something, just have it on the list. So to me, that's more important than just about anything as far as usage of the library is that space that we need to lock it off or fix it. So anyway, the last one I have is that I as I drove around on my my scooter, we don't have a disability committee right now.
There you are.
But I would like to start us thinking about some ADA
Out of there.
disability situations. Thank you, Joni. And maybe start looking at how we can improve our ADA accessibility. I know we did the sidewalks years ago and that helped out a lot, but I know there's a lot of areas that we could do improvements that would help across the entire town, not only in Old Bisbee, but other areas in our ADA access. Just coming to mind, I mean, one of the things, and as I went to the post office today, we have the one little button that will open a door, but wouldn't it be nice to be like walking in a Safeway and the door just opens for you as you have a big package in your hand, ADA accessible type of door package or something. Just things that would make life better for our handicapped and just general people. So again, I don't have a number for that, but something on our list that as money comes, something we don't need somewhere else, maybe we can look at some ADA issues. That's my addition. And then I'm going to throw it open. Anna, I see your hand. So why don't you, it's your chip in now. Thanks.
Just a couple of things on the card racks for the visitor center. Did those end up at the mining museum, or do we know what happened?
Yeah, they're over at the mining museum. Doug's going to have one of his people fabricate new ones for us, so they're not going to be store bought. So they're going to be a lot less expensive than we paid for the other ones.
Okay, but we can't bring those back.
Well, we could bring them back, but then there wouldn't be any cards over at the mining museum.
Okay, and then on the life pack monitor for the fire department, what do we have right now, Jimmy? Do we have just 2 that are operational, or?
We have one that, well, they're both out of date, basically, but we do have 2, one for each frontline unit. The second unit, part of its functions don't work anymore and they can't replace it. It's obsolete. So there's a liability there of some sort. So we need to get that, at least one of them changed out now as soon as possible. And I think our other backups are all broken and aren't able to be replaced. So they're just too old. They're LifePak 12s. And the newest ones are the 15s. And only one of them's fully functional. And like I said, the other one is, there is some issues with it that cannot be fixed. So definitely high on the priority list for us.
Okay, so then, Mr. Pocken, could we possibly put in 2 of the life pack monitors?
The answer is yes. I would like to, I think we should purchase one immediately.
Right.
And I think since we do have one that is functional still, I'd like to wait out the FEMA grants and see if we get one through the FEMA grant. And then if we don't, then we can acquire the other one after that.
Okay.
Would that work
So-
for you? Okay.
Okay. And then since on building, I know that we had talked about possibly rehabbing and bringing the fire pole up to code for the station uptown. Can we put that in somewhere?
It's kind of sort of in there, but maybe not. I don't know. I think that's first of all, I don't think I can consider that an eligible expenditure without it being part of something else. And so I didn't put it on the list, even though I know it was requested, because I can't find the place in the rules where they allow us to fix fire poles. But if we're doing something else at that fire station where it can be done as a peripheral project to whatever we're doing, let's say next year we do end up being able to replace the fire station door along with the opening and closing mechanisms that go with it, that could be thrown as a minor improvement at that time.
Okay, so then we have to work on creative wording then.
In a word, yes.
Okay, and then the last thing I have is on the broadband.
Yeah, we are public, so we have to be careful. Just kidding.
So again, on the broadband, I think leaving that money in there is good. And I was just wondering if it couldn't tie in to the satellite library in San Jose for access out here.
Well, the answer is yes. Okay, but I want to throw out a little caution when I say that, and the reason is from my prior experience. The library at my former place of employment was right in the middle of a residential area, and they ended up having to unplug their internet service when they closed the library every night because it was drawing a considerable crowd of cars on the streets around the library and around the blocks. And so we have to be careful how far we throw that signal so that we aren't interfering with people's peace and enjoyment of their own property. So, but it is doable. And I was also thinking that this is an opportunity for us to possibly partner with the school district on something that maybe could benefit both the school district and the people of the city in the broadband area. So, and I have yet to really have a chat with Kim Collins at Cable One, because maybe they have some programs that we can do as well that would work for the community. So yeah, I do want to leave some money in there and leave it open because I think there's possibilities out there we don't know yet.
Okay, and then the last thing I have is on the radios. Is that for the fire department or police department or a combination of both?
Yes.
Both.
That will, yeah, that includes both portable radios for the police and fire department. You'll recall that not very long ago, we spent some money. I wish I hadn't brought it up now because I forgot what it was we bought. But it was some grant money that we were going to use to buy the portables with, and we ended up getting something else with it. So that left us without the rest of the money we needed to finish buying the portables. But they will be, those will be probably pretty much totally evenly split between police and fire. Now, there will be a couple of radios that will be held in reserve for the inevitable, repair and replace. And, radios don't always work perfectly. If they have to go to the shop, we want some extras out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Leslie, thank you.
Thank you. So I had a couple of things. Going back to the community assistance for the nonprofits, I think it would be good if we implemented some kind of application process for that. Not necessarily like as involved as a grant application, but something similar where we have to see a budget. We have to see where the money's going. And I just wanted to throw that out there that I would like to see people apply for them. But I don't want to make it hard for the nonprofits to get money. But I just want us to be very exacting about and, judicious about what we decide to spend and where we decide to spend it.
Accountability. I'm sorry.
Oh, Leslie, I agree with you entirely. I just didn't want to start working on a form until I knew we were going to be able to do this.
Oh, okay. And then the other thing, I have no idea what the scope of this project would be, but is there any chance that we could throw some money at putting lighting around the pit? Because that is such a major, it's so scary driving around that at night. I do it all the time, and I would really like to see some lights up there if we could in any way afford it.
Well, the lights around the pit, it's kind of a convoluted mess, if you ask me.
Okay.
Most of the streetlights in town we own. Okay, we don't own those lights.
Okay.
However, we are responsible for getting the power to those lights. How they came up with that idea many years ago, I have no clue. And so we have the control over the power, but not the lights. So now we have already had, just in the last few months, I've had 2 discussions with APS because those lights are just this side of extinct. The technology is horrible. The light they throw is horrible and not the least bit night sky friendly. They don't make more expensive lights as far as power consumption. So what I'm trying to do right now, and I've already told them this, I would agree to provide the power if they can come up with and install suitable light fixtures around the pit. So, and every time APS comes to see me, we have that discussion, whether they want to have it or not. So I'm hopeful, and I've made some specific recommendations to them for light fixtures that I've used elsewhere that are both power friendly and night sky friendly. And as soon as we get an agreement and get those guys out there, we'll power them up.
Great. Well, thank you for that update, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Anything
That's
else?
all.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. We'll go to you, Lou. I'd like to hear.
I've got 3 things. First, I'd like to see more money in the emergency fund for nonprofits. And that's just my input. You can take it for what it's worth, Steve.
Oh, I think that's a great suggestion, sir.
Thank you. Under building improvements, number 2, I'd like to see some money put in there for the repairs, whatever they may be, at the senior center. And my last point, this has come up quickly, and I realize that it's important, but what opportunity is the public going to have to comment on this issue?
They can have whatever opportunity that council and the mayor wish them to have.
Okay, so that,
Now, quite a few of these have already come in from the public, quite frankly. And so we can publish a period of time, if you wish, where people can send comments to a specific location at City Hall, if that's what council wishes for us to do.
I personally feel that that would be a judicious move on our part.
For each,
That's it.
oh, thanks, Lou. For each one of these expenditures, they'll come back to us, and then that would be on the agenda, and that they'd be able to speak to our approving it or not approving it. So that's one other bite of the apple. But I believe an early bite isn't a bad bite, and then the final bite would be even better when we actually approve. So that's my thought process.
Yeah, I don't intend for this list to be exhaustive. At this point, we needed a starting point, quite frankly, and we started with staff. And I have had, a number of calls from folks in the community, which is really nice because, a couple of those items like the COVID tests and that sort of thing. I mean, those came out of input from the public. So we will what we will do is we will advertise through our channels and hopefully also the local newspapers a period of time where we can accept suggestions to a specific place for additional comments. And keep in mind, of course, we have to check everything for eligibility too.
Thank you.
But that's a good suggestion.
If I might add really quickly, just for the public's knowledge, is I've had a couple of requests about, well, raising the pay for a certain job or whatever, and I have to continue to let people know this is one-time money, and where the best spend is we don't work ourselves into something that we're gonna have to fund in forever. I mean, yeah, the lights aren't a big thing around the pit, that will work in, but some kind of pay and benefits can come back after this money goes away. So we have to be very careful about going in and spending it out of something rather than one-time money. If you agree with me on that, Steve, I think.
Yeah, we just want to keep in mind that pay and benefits are like compound interest. Okay, so if you give somebody $1 this year, we're going to pay them that $1 next year plus anything else that we give them. So it tends to compound over a period of time. And I think I've had this discussion with several of you over the last few weeks that we also have to keep in mind that you know, if somebody singles out a person, an employee or a category of employees that they think deserves a raise, then what's the impact on the other 90 or 100 employees that we have? And so I prefer to use the budget process for that purpose, because that way we build it from the ground up and we know the impacts both for that fiscal year and for the long term. So for all those reasons, I would try to stay away from awarding money. I don't know how else to say it, for people for whatever reason they may feel it's appropriate.
Right, thanks. I just wanted to add that. Frank or Joni,
Well,
go ahead, Frank.
I would just say in general, the things on this list are all legitimate and needing. I'd like to highlight, along with what you said, Mayor, about the railings at the library. I think that's an important thing, so we can use that area and look at the improvements there we need to make them ADA accessible as well. And along with what Lou was saying about the nonprofit, I'd like to see more money there for that, because I know down the road, once things get rolling, there's going to be applications for that money.
People are still hurting out there, that's for sure. So yeah, we'll go to work on an application for this tomorrow. I will revise the figure and send you all a revised list based on your comments. So yeah, consider that one done, Frank. Thank you.
Okay, all right, Joni, you bring up the
Okay, I want to, I guess, emphasize, not for a better term, the fireman life pack monitors. I really think we need to look at that. I agree with what Frank just said about everything else that is on the list. There is one thing that I wish we could find a way to put money aside to build even a single individual bathroom at Garfield. I mean, we're talking about putting money aside for tourism, and I get that, but that park, Garfield Park, is utilized by so many of our community. And to be quite honest, the restroom facility is there right now is pretty scary. And it would just be nice if somehow we could manage to use some of this money to put in, like I said, just one stall that's not a porta pot with big ugly spiders.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know, Joni, I asked that same question a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
I can't remember the response. There was something that made putting a permanent restroom, for lack of a better term, in there more difficult than it appears on first glance. Because I know there are precast concrete restrooms that are used in state national parks all over the country.
Right.
that come in on a trailer and you drop them in place and hook your plumbing up and you're gone. And I'll have to go back and try and find out where I got that answer, but I mean, I agree with you totally on a Garfield Park one. It's just that I know in the past it proves to be more difficult than just doing it. So
Okay.
but we'll do the research on that.
Okay, I'd appreciate that because as a parent of a young child a million years ago, it was pretty scary. So, yeah,
I had those too.
yeah. But other than that, I pretty much everything else was covered. I did have concerns about the pool. I wanted to make sure that was on there, but you hit it with the deck and everything. So, yeah.
All right. If there's no more comments, we'll move on to number 2, agenda item, and see if we want to approve the first spending of some of this money. So moving on, this is agenda item 2. This is a discussion and possible approval of a request from the Copper Queen Community Hospital Foundation for a grant of $31,352 to purchase a pulmonary function test system. I'll give a quick little.
Mayor, before you continue,
Go ahead.
I think you made that a 6-digit number. It's 31,000.
Well, I thought that's what I said, but yeah, $31,352. So if I didn't say that right, I'm sorry. Just the reason it's coming up fast is they have a purchase order available, and this unit won't be there for much longer. They're getting a good deal on it, and so they came. It's kind of one of the early requests, and I'll let Steve talk about. They helped us out in our radio system, so this is kind of a back and forth. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to characterize this as any kind of a quid pro quo, but I think we all know and agree that the COVID thing is going to hang around for a while yet, and this device is pretty much, or at least primarily intended for the ones that they call the long COVID patients, the ones who've had serious lung damage and are going to need some kind of therapy for a longer period of time, rather than just going home and recovering in a couple of weeks. So I think it's, since some of those long-term COVID patients are right here in Bisbee, and I did have a chance to talk with a couple of the docs last week at an event that I was at. They are concerned that the long-term COVID patients are going to be with us for a while, and the Delta variant just leaves us with the possibility of more in the future. So I think it's a reasonable expenditure, and again, totally consistent with the use of this money based on federal government guidelines.
Good.
One important thing is we want to at least start out of the hole using the money that has no question. This would absolutely qualify, and it isn't something we're stretching the overall management of this. So that's why I would be in support of it. But I'm opening it up for comment from council, and see any hands? Not seeing any. It's like we could put it to a vote. I'll make the motion to approve the requested assistance to purchase this, give the money to the Copper Queen Community Hospital Foundation in a grant for $31,352 for a pulmonary function test machine.
Second.
We have a motion by myself, a second by Leslie to approve this request. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Pollock,
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Johns,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. I think we made some good progress tonight, and please, if the public, bring your requests to your council members or straight to the city, and we'll keep looking at this and working on it. It's a work in progress, but we have some kind of railroad tracks, as I say. We're heading in the right direction now, but there's always something that can be added or taken one way or the other. So thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by Frank, and a second, I believe, by Leslie. All those in favor to adjourn? Nope, was it Anna? Oh, no, it was Joni. That's
It's Joni.
I don't know. Put it down, Ashley, whoever you like. It was two people. A motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Chair says the ayes have it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night, and we will see you in a week. And maybe we'll have a new council member. Thank you.
Whee!
Okay.
Night.
Night.
Bye.